All right, so this is building mentoring into an open source community that welcomes and values new contributors. We've got a URL if you want to follow along with the slides on your own device. It can also allow you to cheat and see our speaker notes if you want to see those crazy things. It's bit.ly/building-mentoring. And that can be really nice if, for example, if you want to see something at a different font resolution, or if you want to go back a slide real quick on your own. This will also be up afterwards, so this is easy to share later. So we're going to talk about mentoring inside the Drupal project, but it should apply to many other situations, other open source projects, other kind of community activities. If that isn't what you want to hear, it's okay if you want to go to another talk. That's totally fine. They're all just kind of getting started. But I'm Kathy Sayes. I'm YesCT on Twitter and other places on the internet. I work on Drupal 8, the version which is currently under development and is in the final phase of trying to get a release. We get to have a release when we get down to 0 criticals. But I started with Drupal a long time ago, building Drupal 6 sites. I was volunteering for nonprofits that I was passionate about their mission, and I was not a web developer, but I would go to their meetings and I'd be like, so, I was a computer science instructor at the time, so clearly I was like, what's your website? And they'd be like, we don't have one. And I'm like, you've got to freaking kidding me. I'm like, well, I'm no computers. Surely I can make a website. And so I started collecting nonprofit organizations that I made websites for, and I just happened to pick Drupal. So I still have a large collection of Drupal 6 nonprofit websites that I maintain. This was about 9 years ago, and as I was trying to use Drupal for the first time, and even as I was building more and more sites, I would find things that didn't work. And I found the issue queue, and I could find issues about my problems, and look at the proposed resolutions that were there, workarounds that other people had posted, and then I would use those to help fix my project. And it was really great. Eventually I started filing my own bug reports, and I couldn't find, the issues that I was having, not other people had made an issue for. So I started filing my own bug reports, which was a good step. But I wasn't a Drupal developer, and I had no idea how to fix my problems. And other people weren't fixing them fast enough for me. And I found that frustrating. So I decided, look, I know how open source works in general. I've never actually contributed before. That's what I thought at the time, that I hadn't actually contributed yet. And I said, these people are busy, they have other jobs, I'm going to help them out. I'm going to triage their issue queues. I'm going to do everything I can possibly do so that the maintainer of these projects will have more time on their hands to fix the problems that I can't fix. So I started doing that. And about that same time, I also was hanging out in IRC because I liked the support channel there, and I liked Pound Drupal, and I could ask my newbie site builder questions, and people were helpful. And IRC office hours started happening, and they would just spring up out of the middle of nowhere while I was in there trying to ask my questions. And I did participate once, and I had XJM look up the history for me, and she said, yeah, you got a task once from a mentor, but you never made a comment on the issue. And I'm like, great, that was my first mentoring experience. And back then, there were some rowdy podcasts that Lullabout was putting out, and I listened to them religiously. And these people would laugh and joke, and they would tell stories, and I'm like, wow, they're having so much fun. I want to have fun too. And sometimes they would do recaps of events, or they would talk about events that were coming up. And they would say, yeah, DrupalCon, there's these extra sprint days that aren't on the schedule, but you can totally go to them, and then they would talk about them. And I heard them say this repeatedly, and finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and do that. So DrupalCon Denver in 2012 was the first time I decided to go to these mysterious extra days that weren't on the schedule, and I had no idea what was going to happen. And I was like, I'm just going to book my ticket to leave on Sunday and hope that I find where they are and that the people there are nice. And they were fantastic, and I got involved there. Since then, now I work on Drupal 8 core a lot. I work on multilingual, content translation, menu translation. I've worked on menu links, and my goal right now is to help with the safe markup critical, because that's a very approachable one and will still help with release. I've been to almost every DrupalCon since then, and participated in sprints. I've mentored at sprints. I used to apply for scholarships, and I would go to sprints and help new contributors get involved. I don't have to apply for scholarships anymore because about a year ago I got a full-time job working for Blackmesh. And Blackmesh is a hosting company, and 60% of their clients are Drupal sites. And because that helps them have a successful business and they want to invest in continuing to have a successful business in the future, they have hired me to help invest in the Drupal project through getting new contributors involved and also working my own on issues. In LA, we had a really big successful sprint with about 400 people there and 60 mentors. So now I organize, lead sprints, I do mentoring with a lot of other people who help me out, and I go to big events, camps, little tiny sprints. I also think a lot about the tools that we use for contribution and try to figure out how to improve those, and then I continue to work on Drupal 8.
My name is Kalpana Goyal. I work for Forum One. Forum One is a full-service digital agency. We do a lot of non-profit organization and government work. Kalpana Goyal on Twitter and kgoyal on d.o. So just a little bit background about myself. I was a sprint lead for DrupalCon LA, and I started contributing in 2013. I was a lurker on IRC before that for a long time. I used to see a lot of people, mentors and participants, having a conversation in Pound Drupal public IRC channel. I never had the courage to ask any questions because I'm thinking like, no, I don't want to feel dumb. And I didn't know how to interact. But one day I conquered my fear, and Scott, his D.O name is Kotzer, he was doing core office hours on IRC, and I asked him, can you give me some novice issue? I am a beginner. I have never contributed to Drupal before, and I want to learn Drupal 8. So he gave me an issue, and it was a simple issue for just warm up. It was a simple read-all. I finished that task. After that, I did a few more tasks, but I wanted to take my experience to the next level. And for transitioning, one day there was a podcast with all the different Drupal 8 initiative leads, and I was listening to that, and Larry Garfield, Whiskey initiative lead, and Whiskey is a web services in Drupal 8, he said that he needs some help. Because at that point we were converting all the hook menus to the new Drupal 8 routing system. So I immediately jumped on IRC and I said, how can I help? Because I really wanted to learn Symfony at that point. So he pointed me to some documentation which he wrote on Drupal.org, and I read those documentation, and those were really good documentation, and that got me started. Since then till today, I have contributed a lot to Whiskey initiative. I try to work on it because I like it, and he's the one who welcomed me in the community and get me started. But besides that, I went to DrupalCon Portland. I knew about the core office hours happening on IRC, but the big day on Friday at DrupalCon Portland, I saw a lot of people walking around in green t-shirts. And I'm sitting at one of the table with different people and participants, just like me. And I was one of the persons because I like the green t-shirt. Who doesn't like the free t-shirt? So I wanted to get the free green t-shirt, and I said, so how did you get the green t-shirt? And he said, the person said that they are the mentor here, and if you want to get the t-shirt, you should talk to Kathy about it. And I said, okay, I will talk to Kathy about the t-shirt. And Kathy, I went to asking Kathy, I said, how can I become a mentor so I can get a free t-shirt? So she pointed me to that the next event, which was happening at Prague, and I signed up for the mentor. And since then, I have mentored almost all the DrupalCons. Most of the camps, I do mentoring here at the local events. We try to gather around and work on Drupal core issues, and because I'm passionate about that.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the official mentoring project and what effect it's had on the community in general. The Drupal project and the Drupal community has always been pretty good at welcoming people, and we're just getting better and better at it. We're really good at it. It is a key component to the long-term health of the project that we continue this good pattern that we have. So the official mentoring program started a long time ago. Drupal 7 was released early in July 2011, and Drupal 8 opened up for development right away. We're not doing that this time, but that's what happened then. So in July 2011, XJM and a couple other experienced contributors got together, and they were looking at the long issue queues, and they're like, our small group of contributors is never going to be able to get through this. But we know, the experienced contributors know that there are some of the issues that new contributors can help with, but new contributors don't know how to get involved. So they're like, let's make a program. We're going to have office hours. And they asked experienced contributors to fill out a doodle, and they signed up, and they started having office hours. And XJM tells a really good version of how she got involved with it and how the mentoring program grew in a DrupalCon Portland presentation, which is recorded and is still up. And I would encourage you to watch it. Many of the things in there are still relevant. So the idea in the office hours was originally that experienced people would get a short list of issues together they thought new contributors could help with, and they were going to have new contributors triage those issues by updating issue summaries. And 2011, we weren't as fanatical about issue summaries as we are now, and I think we can all agree that they are a lifesaver. But back then, it was kind of a radical thing. So that's how those started. Shortly after that, we had DrupalCon Denver in 2012, there was a huge, giant room filled with tables and people, and it was buzzing, and everybody was talking. Calvin is in the front table there, and do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I'm sitting in the front, and there are some people sitting with me. So on DrupalCon Denver, I did not contribute anything, but my contribution actually matters because I asked my friends to come on over. I encouraged them and pushed them to come for the sprint because I didn't want to go alone. So I thought, if we go in a group, that's better because I'm sitting with the familiar people and I'm scared to talk to new people. But what happened is like this girl sitting in a blue t-shirt, she got her first commit mention at DrupalCon Portland. Denver.
Just because you asked her. Alright, I'm not in the front. I'm stuck way back in the corner at the table in the very back of the room. And I had come to Denver and with a not new computer and a not upgraded operating system, and then I got to the sprint and I couldn't get Drush to work. And I'm like, well, I can't work without Drush, right? So, there were a bunch of other people that I overheard saying things like, oh, I can't get Drush to work either. And I'm like, oh, I can't get Drush to work. So I thought, now I was not a mentor then, right? Like, first sprint, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I thought it would be a great idea if I walked up to the front of the room, to the stage, and asked these famous people, Tim Blanca, XJM, Zen Doodles were up there. I'm like, hey, I'm Kathy. Can I use the microphone and ask if anybody's having trouble with Drush? We could gather together at a table and work on it together. And they said, sure, go ahead. So I did. So I used the microphone and I was like, hey, anybody with Drush problems, let's go meet. So we met in the back. And there were like a bunch of us. And by the end of the day, I had gotten everybody's drush to work except for mine. I spent all day on it. But there was one person who we'd gotten their drush to work, and they were there with me, sticking with me, to help me get through it. And we figured out by the end of the day that there wasn't really anything wrong. The drush wasn't broken, my system wasn't particularly broken, but the error message I kept getting and the instructions in the README, if they had been a little bit different, I totally would have gotten the drush to work in the first 10 minutes. I would have gotten an error message that would have been better, would have told me what to do, I would have changed the setting, would have been fine. Or I would have gone in the README and it would have said what setting to change, and I would have changed it there, and everything would have been fine. So, but I knew what to do. I was like, okay, I'm going to fix drush. I'm going to fix the error message, and I'm going to fix the README. So I'm going to make a patch. And this is near the end of the day, and all these people, hearing conversations that are people happening, I'm like, you know what? I bet there are other people in this room who have never made a patch before, and they would be interested in seeing how the heck you do that. So I went back up to the front of the room at the microphone, and I said, would you mind, I'm about to make a patch for this README for drush, which is very approachable, right? Almost everybody can envision themselves as doing something like this. And could I present this to the room? And they're like, sure, go ahead. So I did this 5-10 minute live presentation, making a patch, and I hadn't made that many before, in front of everybody there at the sprint. So that was pretty cool. So these events, right, and the mentoring that happens with them are really great. And there are all kinds of different things that happen at these in-person events, some of which happen on the screen and with a microphone, and others which are more intimate, happening at one table with just an experienced person helping other people do things.
Let's talk about types of mentoring we have. So there are two types, official and unofficial. Official mentoring occurs on IRC during core office hours and at events like DrupalCon. Unofficial mentoring occurs in the issue queue. Like if I, as a participant, posted a question, I have no idea how to solve that, and someone else helps me find an answer or answer that question, that is unofficial. Or an IRC, like if a participant working on the issue but outside the core office hour, if the person have a question, can come to the Drupal-contribute channel or any other channel and ask the question. Or at non-mentor specific events like at DrupalGovCon here. Yesterday we were sitting in room C2 in the sprint lounge, and there was a group of the people who wanted to contribute to core and have never contributed before. So they sat with us and we helped each other and we learned from each other, so it's a good thing. So let's talk about core office hours. What is it? So core office hours happen every week on the same day, same time. On the East Coast is Wednesdays from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And then there is a critical core office hours that occurs at 3 different times on Fridays and 3 different time zones. So core office hours, because it happens every single week on the same day, same time, and it has been happening for years. So if participant decides to come and contribute to core, they know for sure that they will be finding mentors to help them work on the issues. And what do mentors do during core office hours? Is they find issue for participants to work on. They explain what the issue is about, what is happening in the issue, and what is to expect next. And they answer any technical questions, but they do not give direct answers, but they help participants find the answers to their technical questions. And they encourage, because core office hours is only for 2 hours on Wednesday. So they encourage participants before they leave to post their intermediate work. So if participants decide to come back and continue working on that issue the same day or tomorrow or next day or later on, they know what they posted and they can continue from there. The good advantage of core office hour is that participants get good feedback from mentors. So it's kind of nice that I ask question and somebody is there to help me find an answer. So participants, as a result of this, participants feel like they are moving forward with the support from the mentors, and And another thing is, like I said in the beginning, I was lurker for a long time in IRC and never had the courage to ask questions. But so there are some lurkers, and because IRC hours happens or core office hours happens in Found Drupal, which is a public channel. So all these lurkers, they see the conversations happening between mentors and participants. So they get the idea of like, it is okay to ask questions. It is okay to not feel stupid because no question is a stupid question or a small question. So what happens, like that encourages them to become a mentor. So that really helps a lot. Another official type of mentoring occurs at in-person events like at DrupalCon. So there is a DrupalCon, you have a big table. You are sitting with 10 or 15 different people at the same table. You talk to more people right next to you or at your table. You introduce yourself, so you make more connection with your peers there. And everyone is working on the same issue or different issue, but then you kind of overhear the conversation between participant and mentor. So even though it's not your issue, but you gain knowledge, how they are working on, what kind of questions they are asking. Like one of the event I was with Kathy, and Kathy and I was not working at the same issue, but I heard her saying git log -s. And I said, so what does it do? She said oh, you can just type git log -s and the code, the function name or method name, and then you will be able to find the history when that function got removed or changed into the git log. And I said, oh, and since then today I have been using, and it's really handy. So that's an example. The highlight of the in-person event occurs at DrupalCon. That's a live commit. That's a really, really nice, if you have experience before. I have at all the DrupalCons, and what happens is it always involves first-time code contributor. And live commit, we call everyone on the stage. The person who helps write the issue summary, the person who helps write change record if it needs change record, the person who submits a patch, the person who does any UI testing if it needs any UI testing, the person who does the code review and set the issue as reviewed and tested by the community, and then mentors who help all these people to move the issue forward. So they come on the stage, and then there is a code committer, and they explain the process, like how they review the patch, how they test the patch on the front end side if it needs any testing, and they explain how they push the code. And Kathy, what happens next?
Yeah, so what's really great about this is at the end of the day, and everybody's been working really hard all day long, but everything stops. We get all the mentored sprint participants, we get all the regular sprint participants, we shove them all in one room, and we spend 20 minutes watching this live commit. And when the actual commit happens, and the committer is up there on stage, and all the participants are in back, and they're standing up in front of all these amazing people, and then they hit the button, and just the whole crowd erupts. They clap, they laugh, they take pictures, they tweet, and we're all doing this in celebration, not of the API change that we've been working on for 2 years, and it's taken 5 bazillion hours to do, but instead in celebration of new contributors and their first contributor experience. And this way we choose what to celebrate is really indicative of the value that we put on these new contributors, and it's just amazing. So we have the IRC official office hours, and we have official mentored sprints at events. But the effect that these things have had has gone into a lot of different parts of our community. Issues, IRC outside of office hours, and at events even if nothing specific official mentoring is happening. Issues are really important because they are the canonical place to document work that's done. So if I do work on my own computer and I never put it back on the issue, it's as if it never happened. If I have a conversation talking about the implications of an issue on IRC with somebody, and neither one of us goes back to the issue to summarize it and post it on the issue, we may as well have never had that conversation. Something happens in office hours or at a sprint, and we get a contributor who's writing an automatic test for something, and they can't get their test to work at all, but they never post their non-working test on the issue, or they never ask their questions on the issue, then that person may have never, has come there. So it's really important that we take any work we do in any other area and we put it back on the issue. Over the years, I've seen the way we communicate with each other on issues change. And I think it's in large part because of the mentoring activities. Inside office hours with mentors, we train mentors. We help them develop good habits. And one of the good habits that we have is a pattern of providing constructive criticism. And it has 3 parts. One part is you thank the person for something that they did, something you want them to do again. You talk about what they did, pointing out things, this isn't really the way that we do this a little bit different way, or have you thought about trying this, have you thought about trying that? So you discuss the meat of the work. And then the third part is you make specific recommendations for next steps. So next time you should try this. And we give references for why we think that should happen. Because on blah, da, 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 we also thought that was helpful, and we give a link to it. Or we can say, this documentation handbook page explains, these are the ways that we do this work. So with those 3 parts and that pattern, somebody coming into an issue knows what to do next, and they can continue to contribute. Or somebody coming back to that issue months from now, who was never involved with it before, knows clearly what next steps to take. And they don't really have to ask anybody, because the mentoring activity has been to help somebody else know what to do. And when we work in issues, those aren't official mentoring activities, but we have this pattern we use in office hours when we're talking with people, and now we're starting to see that pattern happen by lots of people on the issue queues, whether or not they consider themselves mentors or not. It's important that it's really great. Yeah.
Can you mind repeating those 3?
Sure.
Just short.
So, thank you for something they did and you want them to do again. Discussing the actual details of the work that's done, have you tried this, asking questions, da-da-da. And then a third section, which is specific recommended next steps with links to help the person know how to do the next steps. So, the change that we've had in our issue queues, where we see a lot more supportive behavior, is really important for any kind of open source project. Because a contributor who isn't involved at all in Drupal will come to Drupal issue queues and look at some random issue they were thinking about helping with. And if they see people being dismissive and criticizing and negating newbie efforts, they're not going to get involved with Drupal. But when they see people helping other people do work, they can envision themselves participating in that project. This is really great effect that we've had. So we have IRC office hours, but we have a lot of other online chats. There's some hip chat things happening, but we have a lot of different IRC channels, and office hours is only a couple hours a week. We have IRC conversations 24 hours all the other days, and we can see a change in the way that those conversations are happening also, where some of the practices that we started in office hours are now happening just by the community in general. And one of the reasons why this was even possible is because for a couple hours a week, mentoring overtakes the channel and floods it with really good examples of experienced people helping other people to do it. And all the other people who are in that channel kind of overhear those conversations, and it happens over and over again. And as a societal human group of people, we tend to adopt ways of talking to other people that we observe. And so because we have a lot of chances for people to observe this mentoring activity a couple of hours a week, it leaks into all the other hours of the whole entire week. Keys here are that mentoring happens in public. You get lurkers, people listening in, observing these patterns, and then being able to take on those traits themselves. It happens on the issue queues, also there, which is in public. We put new contributors with experienced contributors in the same either IRC channel, like Drupal-contributes, or in the same sprint, and that helps spread values through the community. And we have, because see, there's another way of doing mentoring, right, that could have been a different choice right at the beginning. We could have said, hey, we're going to have mentoring office hours, let's make a mentoring channel, and we'll advertise it, and anybody who wants to show up for mentoring office hours joins a special mentoring channel, and so it'll just be new contributors and people who have already committed to mentoring. But that would have been a disaster, because the people who show up for that in that special private channel wouldn't then know how regular contribution happens. They wouldn't know where the channel is that everybody's really doing work in. Nobody would see mentoring happen, and those poor mentors who were there would not be supported by a greater community of mentoring or get other mentors involved, because nobody in the general community would know what mentoring was and they'd be afraid to sign up for it. So the mentors pool wouldn't grow, and the new contributors that showed up wouldn't know really where to go to do work after they were done with their little mentoring session. So the fact that we have it in public, where we mix experienced and new people together, and the place where we do the work is the place where they're going to continue to do work. If you show up to work on an issue in IRC, and then it's not office hours, and you're like, I want to work on an issue, where should I go? You go back to the same channel you were in for mentoring, and you just try and do it there, and some random person is going to help you. So in public has really been a good key.
So you might have the question at this point, like, what do mentors actually do? We do a lot of work behind the scenes. But outside the scene, like in the public, we do direct interact with the participants when they come to the core office hours. Direct work with the participants if they have any technical question or any sort of a question, by not just giving them direct answer, but pointing to them to the right direction. And if they mentors, they don't know the questions or answers, they point to participants to the right person who might know the answer. And as Kathy described, part of that mentoring is that gives constructive feedback. We want to have like a feedback in a positive way that encourage new contributors or first-time contributors to repeatedly come back to the core and keep continuing to the core, because that makes mentoring successful and it takes the project move forward. Also, in addition to all this, mentors help work on the tools. As an example of that, I want to say that on the issue queue on Drupal.org, it used to be, go ahead. Okay. So we used to have this issue queue in the on Drupal.org where you can add the tags, and tags would appear in the alphabetical order. But Chris, who's sitting right here, working, he took it to next level, and he said, no, I don't want this to, this text to appear as just the alphabetical order. I'm going to improve this tool, and he worked hard. And now all the tags on the issue queue, they appear as like the number of the time. So if one tag has like been used a lot of times, that will appear the first. So it's kind of like really helpful. So like small things, he put his effort, time, and energy improving that tool. And that does not just help mentors, but the contributors, first time experienced contributors, it just helps everyone. So mentors, they work on improving tools, they adopt new tools, they encourage participants to come back and keep on contributing to core. So it just really helps building the community, and they change the community in a positive way to move project forward. Okay, so keys to this successful thing. This is a picture of mentors from LA. It's 50 or so of us that we could round up together, and they're wearing their special shirts. And they're really happy, but they're not happy because they got a lot accomplished that day.
They didn't work on any issues. They spent the whole day helping other people work on issues. And that attitude that they have, that their job is not to be like the smartest person to get the most work done, but instead is to help other people get involved, is a really good attitude that helps us be successful. Scott's always been really good at this next one too. Mentors either kind of already come into it, or they absorb it because the mentor process is already there, or maybe because they've gotten specific instructions through orientation or a documentation page on how to mentor. But one of the things that we include, that we want mentors to understand, is that the new contributors who come to help with a project are experts in something. They have a job, they have an area of interest, they know how to do many things. They just don't know how to contribute on an issue to Drupal yet. And so mentors approach their interactions with these new people not with an air of superiority, but with an appreciation that those new people are bringing some experience into the project, and they just need a little bit of help to figure out how to make that experience have an effect on the project. Mentors have a high value on new people, both for the contribution that new person might immediately make on the issue that they're helping them with, but also that they bring a new perspective and that it's an investment in the future. But we have a realistic expectation for what kind of return we're going to get on our mentoring investment. We know that you could help 100 people contribute to Drupal, and maybe 10 of them might come back ever to contribute again. But we go into that with that expectation so we don't find it frustrating. We're excited that a whole ton of them might ever come back. And of those 10 people, right, they might come back a couple times, but you might get like one person who goes on to do something amazing. They take over maintenance of a theme component. They go start a local group back at home. Or they go on to be an initiative lead, or a core committer. But we understand that we're going to help a lot of people, and not everybody's going to have the same long-term repeated behavior. But we go in with that expectation, so we don't find it frustrating. We're excited when it happens at all. Even the interactions that we have with people who might contribute once on that day and then never do it again, mentors still get something out of it. Because they're helping other people in areas that may not be their area of expertise, they learn a ton of stuff they would never know otherwise. Maybe they learn a new trick that this person uses in their job, and then they try and apply it on the issue, and they're like, wow, that's so cool. Or maybe they focus, only on a specific area of core, and then they end up helping with some JavaScript something, and then they end up learning something about JavaScript. So mentoring is really rewarding in general, no matter really what happens after that one particular instance. Because mentors have this, repeated experience with each time with a new contributor, we experience the pain of those new contributors as if it was our own. We never really get past it. It's not like we were new once, and then now everything is fine, we can just get work done. But we experience the pain over and over again. And we get asked the same questions over and over again. But as smart people who like to automate things and improve our processes, we say to ourselves, gee man, I'm answering this question again. I'm going to make a documentation page with the answer to this question. So over the years, we've developed a really excellent group of contributor task documents. So if you want to know how to do a accessibility review, we have a documentation page that says how to do that. If you want to know how to update an issue summary, how to make screenshots, add automatic tests, contribute translations, we have great documentation pages which say how to do all these contributor tasks. And that helps mentors because we can handle more new people at once then. So if we're working in a table of people or we're on IRC and trying to help 3 or 4 people at the same time, we can do some real-time communication with them and back it up with a documentation page. That gives the mentor confidence that they're giving the person the right information, because they can always go back to the documentation page to look it up. And it also helps that new person because they get a little bit of it live, and then when they don't quite understand something or it's a couple days later, they know where to go back to for the source of the information. We do the same thing, not just for contributor tasks, but also for mentor tasks. And this, I think, we've really improved at in the last year. We have documentation pages that cover what we do at orientation, at mentor orientation at DrupalCon. We never used to have that. We should just show up and I would wing orientation and be like, here's some things you need to know. But Alina's forced us to document that and make it really understandable. So now, somebody who maybe has never been to a DrupalCon, but they're a leader in their own local community, and they may not be able to travel as easily to experience themselves, they can still get all that same information that we were disseminating in person because we have a documentation page, and they can use that in their local community to train their mentors. We have instructions for how to mentor on IRC, because there's some quirks about doing that. We've got some instructions for how to mentor in person with human beings at an event. And we also have documentation for how we run the whole entire mentoring program. So if you wanted to start a whole mentoring program, what kinds of mundane logistical things do you have to do? I can tell you. Actually, I don't have to tell you. It's on the issue. So we have links to all those in there at the end of the talk. So you can see those later if you want. So because we spend our time improving the tools, so for example, we don't have to explain that there's some secret tag you have to add to an issue that doesn't show up in autocomplete. We don't have to explain that anymore because Chris fixed the tools. Because we document the contributor tasks, because we document the mentor tasks, what that means is that none of us are critical to the program. And it frees people to go on to do other things. It makes it completely accessible that somebody can come into the program and take on a leadership role, because they're going to be surrounded by other mentors who sure can interactively give them some wisdom, but they also are going to have a lot of resources to know what's going on. This has happened in general for the mentoring program, but I can also see it happening in core. So a couple of months ago, we did an improvement to the governance documentation that we have for Drupal core, and also made some changes to the maintainers.txt. And these changes outline the responsibilities that maintainers of components or submodules have, and it also has integrated into it the idea that there are people who are almost maintainers, and we want to recognize those people, because once you sign up to be a maintainer, you're not a maintainer for life. And as we document the responsibilities and how we do that, and we also document the up-and-coming people, that frees those people from having to keep doing it forever and maybe not having the best quality of life out of guilt or something. So we have this really nice change in our community, which is helping other people get involved, documenting the knowledge that's there so that people can gracefully step down. And that makes it really healthy.
So in Drupal 7, we had almost, this is the exact number, 954 people who got commit mentions. We have improved a lot in the mentoring program. So now the number has increased 3 times in Drupal 8. So in Drupal 8 now we have 2,997 people with commit mentions. So if any of you are here have never contributed to core, we are in C2 Lounge. So come on by, and maybe you will be the lucky 3 people to be 3,000 person. So we have gotten really good into involving new contributors to core, and that has helped us improve a lot. And we adopt new changes. We improve the tools. In the past, commit mentions used to be just only for the people who submitted a patch or made a code change, but now that has changed. So people who who do UI testing or provide a good feedback or reviews on the core, they all get the commit mentions. But we are still trying to improve in other areas for the core contributions, commit mentions. And there are some key factors for the successful mentoring program, like IRC office hours, always at the predictable times. Mentor concept has spread throughout all the interactions. positive attitude of the mentors that helps someone. It's excellent. Mentors don't tell answers if participants ask questions. They help them find answers. We have turned contributors into mentors. We have built in the process, like either via tools or documentations. We have reasonable expectations. And we have made it so that any person is replaceable, and we have turned contributors into mentors. So mentors move on to other things.
So here are a few resources that are handy that were mentioned during the talk. And we'll post the slides online so you can get them. And we forgot to change them. So the URL to see the talk is bit.ly/building mentoring. Don't look at that. It's building-mentoring. If you look at that one, it's the same talk given to a different audience. So we'll post a link to the slides. The slides are a GitHub project. There are speaker notes in them, and you can point other people to this. You can look at it live. I'm just looking at it through the internet. So you can share it with people. You can fork the project. You can file issues against the talk. And you can certainly give it on your own if you happen to be in a situation where you think you want to talk about mentoring. This is definitely one of those shared resources. So, are we done at 2?
You're done.
Oh, look at that. So there's no time for questions at all. But I think most of us are going to go over to the Sprint Lounge, and certainly, talk to us on Twitter, send us email through our Drupal.org contact forms. I'm the FCT, and this is Kalpana Gold, and thank you all for coming to the talk.